Democrats did it again, this time quietly, quickly passing legislation to keep Coloradans from getting their way on a ballot issue in November. The Colorado Republican Party says people should burn all pride flags. The head of the Log Cabin Republicans, a candidate for Congress, says they're morons and being hateful.
Is there any level of anti-gay bigotry from the Colorado GOP that would cause you to leave the party?
First public poll in Congresswoman Lauren Boebert's new district shows her with an enormous lead, and a new space for a community often targeted with hate and sometimes with violence. That's tonight on Next.
We're getting a look tonight at how powerful Democrats are working to take power away from Colorado's voters. Your ballot this November will offer you the chance to overhaul how state elections are run. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger found how Democrats plan to block it from happening if Coloradans approve the plan.
On a Sunday afternoon in the last days of the legislative session, state lawmakers quickly passed changes to an annual elections bill.
This amendment was worked out with several of our clerks.
The amendment being read by Democratic State Representative Emily Sirota was first reported by the Colorado Sun last week. It would delay something that voters have not even approved yet, changing Colorado elections into ranked choice voting elections.
It doesn't stop the ballot measure from going into effect. It merely slows it down.
Sirota's amendment passed with no discussion in about a minute. If Democratic Governor Jared Polis signs the bill that it was attached to, ranked choice voting would be delayed, but it does not exist yet statewide. Voters will make that choice in an expected ballot issue in November. Ranked choice voting is the kind where you rank multiple candidates on your ballot. The least popular candidate gets eliminated, and the voters that pick that candidate have their next choice counted until someone gets 50%.
I'm a state lawmaker, and my job is to look out for public policy made in the state of Colorado, and in this case to ensure that Colorado's elections are able to be conducted in the best way possible.
First, it's important to let voters speak and let voters decide if this is a policy that they want to enact.
Former Denver Elections Director Amber McReynolds is supportive of the ballot issue that is being pushed by former DaVita CEO Kent Thiry. That ballot measure would also open primaries to all candidates, with the top 4 advancing regardless of party affiliation.
It seems to me that you would allow the voters to decide what they think about this, and then if it passes, sure, there might need to be legislation and enacting legislation that clarifies or further implements the measure.
There is a recent history of lawmakers changing state law ahead of ballot issues, passing beforehand and immediately after. In 2021, property taxes used to essentially be residential, non-residential, but then lawmakers added many subclasses to try to undercut a property tax cut that was on the ballot that year, and that ballot issue failed. There's also an issue after voters passed something allowing unaffiliated voters to participate in primaries. Lawmakers changed it after the fact to say, hey, if you turn a Democrat or Republican ballot in, we get to find out which one you actually turned in. That wasn't on the ballot issue.
The end of the legislative session is always kind of this mad, crazy scramble, but are they just like stuffing random things into bills?
I mean, it's things that you realize, I guess, in the moment that you could attach to relevant bills. This elections bill does many things, some technical changes. There's a concern that Park and Custer County commissioners think they can remove their county clerk for going along with like how you run elections. And there's an added part of this bill, or the bill essentially protected them in a way to say, hey, commissioners, you cannot remove your clerk. So if the governor were to somehow veto this bill, like there's concern from the County Clerks Association, wait a minute, you just we're worried about elections in Park and Custer counties. That's a bigger problem than ranked choice voting.
Appreciate your attention on it. Marshall, thank you. The Club Q mass murderer is expected to take a plea deal on dozens of federal hate crimes charges to avoid the death penalty. The shooter, whose name doesn't matter, is already serving life for killing 5 people and injuring 17 more. Killer's expected to plead guilty later this month to 74 federal hate crimes and firearms charges to take the death penalty off the table. New documents show federal prosecutors filed those hate crime charges because the shooter used anti-LGBTQ rhetoric and expressed an interest in mass shootings online before the attack on the LGBTQ club in the Springs back in 2022. The Colorado Republican Party is calling on people to burn all gay pride flags and proclaiming in a mass email to supporters that, quote, God hates pride. The Republican Party's message attacks so-called godless groomers and echoes the anti-gay slur used by the Westboro Baptist Church in its infamous protests. The GOP's email said, God hates flags. The Colorado GOP's move toward extremism has also recently included a call for all parents to pull their children out of public schools, saying that Democrats are using schools to turn more kids trans. The head of the Log Cabin Republicans of Colorado, an LGBTQ conservatives group, called the leadership of the Colorado GOP morons and said that the anti-gay message was hateful. Valdemar Archuleta, who's also the Republican candidate for Congress in the safely Democratic 1st Congressional District in Denver, renounced his party's endorsement today. Archuleta joined me for today's next conversation, saying he doesn't think that state party leaders speak for most Colorado Republicans.
It has really bad optics, it looks bad, and my primary concern, or the thing I'm most upset about, is that this does not represent the party well.
Does it just look bad, or is it bad?
It is bad.
When they're saying God hates flags, we both know what they want to say, but they don't have the courage to say, and it's pretty vile stuff.
And that, to me, that's something that I think that the Christian community, especially with Republicans, should look at that email and they should be offended. And I know some that are. I have received calls and messages from Christians who found it offensive because it is kind of a reference to the Westboro Baptist Church. And they go out and they protest military funerals. No Christians want to be associated with them. So why that kind of language or imagery would be used to convey a message from our state party is troubling to even Christians in Colorado.
Is there any level of anti-gay bigotry from the Colorado GOP that would cause you to leave the party?
Yes. If it did get to the point where I felt like this was something that was widespread throughout the community of Republicans, I would leave.
You don't think that most Colorado Republicans are anti-gay?
No.
When my conversation with Valdemar Archuleta continues in a moment, why he thinks the Colorado Republican Party is spreading anti-gay hate and what he thinks that will mean for competitive races come November. The first public poll we have seen in Colorado's 4th Congressional District shows an enormous lead in the Republican primary for Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, as in a 35-point lead over the 5 other candidates, with about 40% of voters still undecided as ballots drop this week. Kaplan Strategies out of Florida polled likely GOP primary voters in the district that includes Dougco, Loveland, and the Eastern Plains. 40% said they would vote for Boebert on June 25th. All of Boebert's opponents were polling at or below 5%, right around the margin of error. The pollsters attribute those numbers to Boebert's overwhelming name recognition and very little of that for her Republican rivals. Boebert, of course, is endorsed by Donald Trump. Those Republican primary voters were polled after Trump's felony conviction last week, and 75% said they still had a favorable view of Trump. Months after migrant arrivals spiked in Denver, President Joe Biden's taking unilateral action to drastically limit the number of migrants illegally crossing the southern border. Biden said it was the best option after Republicans in Congress blocked a bipartisan immigration deal at Donald Trump's suggestion. The president's order will shut down asylum claims made at the southern border whenever average daily border encounters, as they're called, top 2,500 people. Daily encounters often hit that mark, so the order will go into effect immediately. Those restrictions will only ease up after daily crossings drop back below 1,500. The Biden administration says migrants crossing the border illegally will be, quote, generally ineligible for asylum, except in extreme cases. New migrant arrivals in Denver have been steadily dropping since mid-January. City attributes that in part to a decision to send 2 city staffers down to border crossings to encourage migrants not to come to Denver once they're in the U.S.
I don't think that Dave is a homophobic person.
Do you think he's pretending to be a homophobe?
He's trying to get a reaction.
The head of an LGBTQ conservatives group says the state Republican chairman is making it harder for them to win close races. For decades, a summer camp has helped kids just be kids, inspiring them to realize what they can accomplish. And the LGBTQ community has a new place to bond and find help in a city where a shooter attacked them. The Colorado GOP is doubling down on anti-gay hate, calling for the burning of all pride flags. The head of the Log Cabin Republicans in Colorado, congressional candidate Valdemar Archuleta, says he's talked with State Chairman Dave Williams in the past about his history of anti-gay rhetoric.
I do not think Dave hates me because I'm gay. I don't think that Dave is a homophobic person. What he said that email was, but he as a person, I don't believe is.
Do you think he's pretending to be a homophobe?
He's trying to get a reaction.
Let's talk about your race. You're a Republican running in Colorado's safest Democratic seat.
Yes.
You know you're going to get smoked in November. We both know it. You've pretty much said it.
You can't say that, Kyle.
We can say it. Why run? Why do it?
I believe that the people of Denver deserve to have options. Anytime you have any area, whichever party it may be, if it's a one-party district, the people in that area are disadvantaged in that they don't get options. They don't get to hear the message from the other side. They don't get to hear a variety of different solutions to the issues that they're facing as a community.
At the end of the day, does stuff like the GOP saying burn all pride flags and God hates flags and stuff like that, does it get harder for you to have those one-on-one conversations with people?
It does. That is a stumbling block that's put in front of not just myself, but even there may be races around the Denver metro area or throughout the state that maybe we're going to be very close. Now the Republican candidate has an obstacle they're going to have to get around, something they're going to have to address, not just now, but throughout the entirety of their campaign. So it is an obstacle to get over, but it's not insurmountable.
Valdemar Archuleta, thank you for your time and your sport coat.
Thank you. It's good to talk to you.
It's a beautiful spring day. Hope you enjoyed the cool down. We're at 81 degrees today. This all compliments of a cool front that came through. And now we're about to turn up the heat for the next 3 days. Highs in the 90s, 83 officially at DIA. Tomorrow's high could be 10 degrees warmer than that with triple-digit highs in southeastern Colorado. Some of you are dealing with gusty winds, Castle Rock, Centennial, up to Longmont, Broomfield, Erie, and over some of the higher passes. This all on the backside of a front that is tracking off to the east of us. Thunderstorm threat is very low tonight, not much to show you on the radar. And the severe weather threat tonight and tomorrow is south and east of Colorado. And in June, anytime we can say that, we'll take it. So a beautiful evening to be out and about with comfortable temperatures and lighter winds after sunset. 91 tomorrow, 90 on Thursday. Hottest day of the week is Friday. Cooler weather for the weekend, but thunderstorms are back in the forecast Saturday and Sunday afternoon.
A sports camp in Aurora this week aims to show kids what they can accomplish by surrounding them with others who understand their challenges.
So this is Colorado Junior Wheelchair Sports Camp. We're in our 41st year. My name is Mark DeShaw. I'm a person with spina bifida. With this camp, I was one of the first campers for the first 10 years of camp. When I was 6 years old, I started. From a perspective of wheelchair user, they may not see this all the time, so they may not realize their abilities. So they get to see an adaptive sport and realize how much they really can do.
Just makes your heart happy to know that you are making a difference in a little kid's life, especially a little kid's life which is hard, being in a wheelchair. My name is Cassidy Beanstra. I am 25. I've been a counselor for maybe 6 years. They're just so fun to see the smiles on the little kids' faces and their faces when they're so proud of themselves for doing something they didn't think they could do.
Here it's just like a place to bond with people and play sports and just have a lot of fun. I'm Bray Morrell and I'm from Wyoming, and I just come to this camp every year for the past 9 years now. Sports I look forward to are basketball and tennis normally, coming here. Just playing with all the basketball guys and tennis guys, it's a lot of fun.
We just encourage these kids, be independent. Learn that you're just a kid. You may do things a little differently, but you're a kid.
People who come here don't just play sports, don't just have a fun day. They get to build lifelong friendships with people who are in their same boat.
I've seen many different iterations of Colorado Springs, of the queer community, of the ability of community to show up, whether that be for themselves or for others.
A community center will fill a void in the Springs more than a year after the Club Q shooting. That's next. The LGBTQ community in Colorado Springs was thrown into the national spotlight in a moment of grief after the Club Q shooting. But that community is strong and resilient, and it's growing with a new place to gather. Our Janelle Finch has that story.
Colorado Springs hasn't had a space like that, so we wanted to create a space that everybody, when they walked through our door, felt like they belonged.
So we're going to head down this way.
A one-of-a-kind space in Colorado Springs is opening its doors.
This is Ashley's area.
To reconnect, a disconnect. The Prism Community Collective is a bridge to LGBTQ+ mental and physical health resources.
And knowing that at the end of the day, we are going to come out better and on top.
John Arcediano says the shooting at Club Q stole so much from those with so little. 5 people died in the attack on Colorado Springs' only LGBTQ+ nightclub, including Derek Rump.
Derek was always the type of person who wanted to bring community together.
Tragedy created trauma for survivors like John.
Because it's not easy after a mass tragedy to really find your voice and to access those resources.
The center serves a community still healing.
I think this expands the network to a lot of folks that might feel super duper isolated.
Development from devastation.
So this is Raymond's room.
Prism opens to the public Wednesday.
This was a big enough need in community, and there was enough rallying behind it that we wanted to try to make it happen. And 18 months later, now we're here.
Prism, in my mind, is a place to start for a lot of people that puts them kind of in the driver's seat of what they want to do next.
A new place to make connections. What people found for 2 decades in Club Q.
Since we've opened, we've already had survivors come in here, and just to see their smiles on their faces as they're playing board games in this room and finding that connection amongst each other, to be able to speak about that night and speak about their experience has been so important and so impactful.
October of last year, Club Q managers announced a new venue in the Satellite Hotel. The Q is currently the only LGBTQ+ lounge in Colorado Springs. The owner says the previous location at Academy Boulevard will reopen sometime this year.
And Janelle, there's talk about a memorial, a permanent memorial in the community. Where does that stand?
Yes, absolutely. And like said, the owner says that reopening is expected sometime this year, but they want to have the permanent memorial done first, and that's going to include bricks right outside, again, of that old location.
All right, Janelle Finch, thank you very much. We're back with your feedback next. My goodness, the feedback tonight about the Colorado GOP's call to burn all pride flags and our interview here with congressional candidate Valdemar Archuleta, who condemned his party in that statement for it. Adrian says if that is not a widespread feeling among Republicans, as Mr. Archuleta said, why haven't more elected Republicans denounced the attacks on the LGBTQ community? In fact, I don't think that I've seen one condemnation from somebody who is in Republican elected office. Brian didn't care for the segment, or probably the whole show, says more left-wing garbage from Sport Coat Boy. That was an old insult from a talk radio guy here in town who I think went away or is not on the air anymore. I'm not really sure what's going on about that. Bob, not subtle, with throughout a good part of the nation, the cicadas are emerging. In Colorado, it's the troglodytes. And finally, from Felton, this end on some unity here. Did Mr. Archuleta raid Kyle's jacket closet? I think that Valdemar and I actually have the exact same jacket. It's a really good one.